Let me tell you all about how these books flipped and turned my life upside down. I just want you to sit here or something and, Bel Air. So these are books that I read during my childhood. I'm gonna have to say up until the age of 15, 16. For the sake of diversity, entire book series take up one spot only. So let's get right to it. Number 5. The Saga of the Mirror by Ian Irvine. This is something that I just found at a book fair. No one really talked about it to me. It's not like I heard about it through the Irvine. The Saga of the Mirror by Ian Irvine is a 4-part series, fantasy series, about Karen and Leon. The ball gets rolling when Leon, a historian/storyteller, discovers something that he shouldn't have discovered. Combine that with one of my favorite tropes, which is multiple worlds facing each other. And then you get the book series that kind of was a game changer for 13-year-old me. It was the first series where I, at the time, thought it brought a nuance to villains that wasn't there before. These books made me feel bad about the villains, and you're not supposed to feel bad for the Dark Lord and everything like that, right? It's that nuance that stuck with me, and it's the reason why the Saga of the Mirror is number 5. Number 4. Children of Mother Earth is a trilogy by Thea Beckman, and you probably don't really know her because she's a Dutch writer. Children of Mother Earth is a post-apocalyptic adventure setting in Greenland after a World War III. This series actually takes place 6 centuries into the future. Nuclear war changed the planet forever, and now Greenland decided to actually be Greenland. In fact, the whole of Thule, which is the new name of Greenland. It's a matriarchal society that was developed after World War III, and having seen that men had really messed everything up again, it was decided that women were to be put in charge. And the story really gets started when a ship turns up from the Baden Empire. That empire has risen from the ashes of Europe and is there to be basically an imperialistic little shit. Throughout the series, you discover that this matriarchal society isn't everything what it's supposed to be. I'm not sure whether you'll be able to find an English version of these books, but I did enjoy these books when I was young in Dutch. Number 3. Magician by Raymond E. Feist. Now this thing used to have a cover, but I was afraid I'd crease it, so I removed it from the book itself, and now I can't find it anymore. For all I know, it might have been sucked up into a different dimension. Now Magician is a famous book. It's part of the Rift War cycles by Raymond A. Feist. He's made lots of books about this world, and Magician is the first book in the Rift War cycle. You can see that it's quite a big book, and for a long time I used to boast about this to everyone. So, this one time I read a book that was like 736 pages long, so whatevs. And that's the reason why I still know that it has 736 pages in its Dutch edition. It feels good to be right. Magician is a story of 2 boys called Puck and Thomas. One of them is a little bit magic, the other one's a little rock and roll. When I say rock and roll, I mean more like a hero, a knight. Once again, this is a series that sports my favorite trope ever, and I have to say that I do love this series dearly, especially its first and second book. Multiple worlds and magic made me a happy kid. Number 2. Yes, that is the entire Harry Potter series in Dutch. I read the series in Dutch up until the 5th book, Order of the Phoenix. That's when I made the switch to English. However, the switch wasn't a very convenient one to make because a lot of the names are different. McGonagall is called Anderling, Dumbledore is Perkamentus, Muggles are Dreuzels. These things are nothing alike, so I had to keep the Dutch books with me so I could look up names and try to figure out who everyone was. It was quite interesting. Obviously, I had to put this series in my top 5 because it has had such an impact on my life. It has been so prominent in my childhood that there's really no series that is as impactful as Harry Potter has been. For a moment there, I wanted to start explaining what Harry Potter is about, but everyone knows. Why should I say this? Harry Potter is a boy who goes to Hogwarts, discovers magic, and yay, happiness, and teenage wizard angst. J.K. Rowling has put a spell on an entire generation of children and has enriched their imagination, their fantasy, and has enriched their lives. These books were a huge part of my childhood and will forever be part of my life. After all this time, totes. After all this praise, you might be wondering why the series isn't my number 1. Well, there's a very clear reason for that. But before we get to my number 1, I want to talk to you about some honorable mentions. My first honorable mention is the BFG, or the GVR in Dutch. This wonderful story by Roald Dahl with its pictures by Quentin Blake has made a lasting impression on me. It told us about a wondrous world where giants live, and there's one giant that we all really love, and that's the BFG. Because he's friendly and he doesn't eat children, for God's sake. And my second honorable mention is The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. The reason why I didn't put it into my top 5 is because even though it's such a beautiful story and I love reading it now, but it took me a while to really understand everything and appreciate it like I do now. The Little Prince is not like all these other fantastical books with heroes and villains and multiple universes. But now I do get it and I do appreciate it, but that appreciation had to come over time as I got a little more intelligent and I could appreciate The Little Prince for what it was, a beautiful, beautiful story. So let's get to number 1, shall we? Number 1. The Neverending Story by Ende. I can't believe that this is the only book that's not part of a bigger series in my top 5. Most of you know The Neverending Stories as its 1980s classic film that was made of it, but I have to tell you that it can't hold a candle to the original book. I know that a lot of people love the film, and I do still like the film as well, but it doesn't really capture the essence, the themes of the book. That's how Ende, the writer of the book, also felt about it. Actually, the film only adapts half of this book, and I have to implore you to get this book and explore a world where the imagination of a child takes center stage. The Neverending Story tells us all about Bastian, a child who seeks shelter in stories, in books. He learns all about Fantasia and Atreyu, the main character of the book he's reading in there, and we get to witness him being huddled up in the attic and basically being us as we are looking at Bastian as Bastian is looking at Atreyu. And throughout the book we see that the lines between the worlds fades. It can't have possibly been that Atreyu heard Bastian calling his name, can it? Stories about stories and imagination enthrall me, they captivate me, because the story itself is interwoven with its themes. It's a book that knows it's a book and that doesn't estrange you from the story, it drags you in. And that's why The Neverending Story will always and forever be my number 1 childhood book. Also, I would love to find out what your top 5 childhood books would be. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.